Good morning. I'm John Welch. I'm the naturalist at Riverbend Park up in Jupiter. I'm here today at Okeeheelee Nature Center, one of our nature centers in Palm Beach County Parks and Rec. We're down on Forest Hill Boulevard today. We're sorry you can't be here right now for the program, but we thought this video might be a great way to give you an introduction into our basic archery program that we offer at all the Palm Beach County nature centers as well as Riverbend Park. So archery, it's a great family program. It's great for young and old alike. So you want to kind of gear your equipment to the size of the people that are using it. So the point of today's program is to take you through just some of the basic parts of the bows and the arrow, as well as some commands, safety concerns, and basically sort of a 10-step process that helps you shoot better, if you will. Consistency of posture, how to aim a bow, that kind of thing. So we're going to take you through that process today, starting with, of course, the bow. So if you get into archery, one thing you want to consider, the bow I'm holding here is a Genesis compound bow. If you get into archery, these are not super expensive. It's a good all-around target bow. They're like 20, 25 pounds tops pull. And we also have a mini bow for smaller children with not as hard to pull, and the pull distance isn't as far either. The draw length isn't as far. Okay, so let's start with the bow. If you were shooting a recurve bow, no wheels, or a long bow, no wheels. But compound bows do have wheels. They have this wheel at the end, and this funny looking one down here, this is actually called the cam. All right, and what this allows you to do with the compound is to draw back and hold the string back longer without having to draw full draw length or full poundage of the bow. So that makes compounds rather nice. They also shoot a little flatter, okay? So the Genesis compound and compound bows in general have some basic parts you should know. These are called your limbs. And the part that faces away from me out this way, that's called your limb back. This part that faces me is called the limb face. I already mentioned the wheel and the cam. This part here on the compound is called the cable, and there's a cable guard to hold it there. One thing you never want to do with the compound is pull on these, okay, because you can actually damage the bow that way. Obviously, you have to hold the bow somewhere, so I have my hand here on the grip. And then, besides the grip, this area to here is called your sight window. This is kind of where you look through, all right, to find the target. It's also known as the riser. This is the shelf. And later we'll probably have a blow up, but this little wire here is your arrow rest. You can put on different types of arrow rests, but this is actually where your arrow will sit when you go to shoot the bow. You can also adjust this bow a bit with these limb bolts, one here and here. And there's a tool I can tighten and loosen this with, which creates limb pockets and makes the draw not quite so hard. So if you're having a hard time holding it back, you would loosen your pockets. And then, of course, you can fully tighten it all the way, which on this bow would take you up to about 25 pounds. This is the mini bow, works exactly the same way. The main point about this bow is for smaller children with smaller arm lengths and everything else. They'll get a better experience. Not only they're not holding as much weight, but they'll be able to draw it all the way back. You do have to draw that string back past a certain length in order to have a good experience. So that's a brief synopsis of your bows and the parts right there. Of course, we need arrows as well. This is a simple Easton target arrow. In this case, you have a basic target tip. This is an aluminum shaft. You have a knock right here. This point that actually knocks into the string is known as the knock. You have vanes right here, and your vanes can be different types of, it's also known as fletching, different types of material. These are sort of rubberized plastic, if you will. Two of the vanes are the same color, and one is different, and it's usually white. And later you will see that's very important, because when you go to knock an arrow, that white vane should be facing away from the shelf wall towards you. You'll get a better idea of that when I go to shoot on the field, and you'll see how that works, okay? So I think what we'll do right now is go ahead and walk over to the field and start this process so you can see how the field sets up some of the rules and, of course, how to shoot. So over here on the field, we're going to take you through what you can expect to see when you come to one of our archery programs. There's a number of commands you need to be aware of, as well as some do's and don'ts with your bow, and of course a good safety procedure as well as a proper posture and shooting technique that USA puts out that helps you have a better experience on the archery field. So I'm standing here on the field right now. Now where I'm standing technically is called the shooter's line. Just like on a gun range, everybody lines up. We don't have people, one person in front, one person in back. That's for safety reasons. So generally there is a line. It could be rope, it could be pane in the grass, but there's a line that runs through here. About 10 feet behind me is the waiting line. So when you come to a field, of course the instructor will introduce him or herself to you, but you're not going to go over the waiting line. Only the person who shoots goes over the waiting line. Any spectators, family members, they stay behind the waiting line. When the whistle command is given, then the archers will come up here to the shooting line where they will shoot from. So there's 3 commands that kind of take you through this process. 2 blows on the whistle tell the archers to go ahead and get their bow. Now the bows will either be on a stand or on a table behind the waiting line. So when you hear those 2 whistle blows, the people who've probably already been chosen to shoot first will walk over and pick up the bow they're going to use. By the way, this is a right-handed bow. There is a difference between a right-handed and left-handed bow. So they'll pick their bow up and walk up to the shooting line. One thing that's important about when you hold a bow, some giveaways like the cable guards below your hand, this funny looking cam is down here, the wheel's up here. Because if you're holding it like this, you're going to have a tough time shooting. So, got to hold it upright, just like so. So 2 whistle commands, and you come to the shooting line. Now this line runs right through here. You will straddle the line, and if you're a right-handed shooter, as I am, then I'm facing right now towards the camera, towards you. If I was a left-handed, I'd be facing the other way. My quiver, in this case just some arrows in a cone, are sitting right in front of me, not right on top of me, but not too far away, so it's easy for me to get them. I hold this position. Everybody in the line does till we hear 1 whistle command from the archery instructor. That is the command to shoot, and normally they might say fire at will or go ahead and shoot, whatever it may be, but that 1 whistle command is what tells you it is now safe to shoot. You will shoot out generally 5 or 6 arrows. With us at Riverbend anyway, it's usually 5 arrows. Once the range captain sees that everybody has shot 5 arrows, he will blow the whistle 3 times, and you will walk up to the target line, which sits right in front of the target. You'll see that in a minute. You stop there. That's your safety check to prepare yourself to safely remove your arrows from the target. Okay? All right, now, a couple of things about archery that are important to know. As I mentioned before, you never want to dry fire a bow. Okay, when you walk up to this line, you may want to test how tight or loose your bow is. So you'll pick it up, draw it back like this, and just see how it feels. If it's comfortable, that's fine. If it's not, you'll let the instructor know. But once you draw it back, there's no arrow in here yet. You never release it. You back it down slowly. You never want to dry fire a bow. You never want to fire any kind of bow without the arrow being in there. That can damage the bow. All right, so you want to go through that process. Once you have the go-ahead there, you know you'll be ready to shoot. We have a good saying in archery. We call it bows on toes. So the range captain needs to know everybody in this line is ready to fire. You're going to take your bow, and you're going to sit it right here in your toe. You never want to put your equipment in the dirt, not good for the bow. So you'll sit just like this, lined up, ready to fire. Your right foot's on one side of that line, your left foot's on the other, straddling. So my target, because I'm a right-handed shooter, is literally perpendicular to me this way, over my left. If I take my left arm out just like this, That's where the target is. And this will become important in a minute. All right, so everybody's lined up this way. He blows that whistle, and I go to the 10-step process. We have a stance, knock, set, setup, draw, anchor, transfer, aim, release, and follow through. It's a whole lot of steps, but it all makes sense once you go through it. So on that first blow of the whistle, I will take my bow and grip it. You do not need a death grip on a bow. In fact, when you do that, you tend to kick the bow off. So you want to relax, but obviously firm enough to hold the bow for a grip. Okay, so I'm standing here and I'm ready. The whistle's been blown. I'm going to take my arrow. Remember, the fletching, 2 colors are the same, and the white one faces away from the arrow wall. Well, pardon me, from the shelf wall. So it's facing out. So if I'm like this, that white fletching's actually facing towards me when I draw back, okay? When you go to draw an arrow and put it on a bow, you need to be very aware of who's around you. The only place this should be pointing is either at the target or down on the ground. If you get into a conversation, don't get caught into the habit of going, oh yeah, that's great, because all of a sudden you're pointing it at the person next to you. This always goes towards the ground or at the target. All right, so the other thing is when I knocked it, I don't know that you'll hear it on the video, but this knock actually snaps into place. And you'll feel it. I can hold this and it'll pretty well hold the arrow right there. Okay, so it's snapped in. You want to make sure your arrow is level. So a good way to do that is rest it kind of on your hip and look at it. You want a nice L, a 90-degree arrow angle with that arrow and the shelf wall there. So you're going to kind of hold it, make sure it's not way up or way down, anything like that. And remember that arrow is going to sit right on that rest, okay? So now you're ready to fire. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and take you through aiming and shooting. The posture is very important. Your body needs to be erect. A lot of exercises I have people do is to kind of line themselves up with the target this way. You want your shoulders, your arm, your neck, your spine, everything kind of all in alignment. Your shoulders, pardon me, your hips want to be in alignment. You want your feet kind of shoulder distance apart. You want to be comfortable and sure of your stance. And you're going to raise your bow up. This arm needs to be out. I tell people the first time to actually exaggerate this. Bring this arm right out like this. And as you saw in the blow-up photo, that string needs to sit across this last crease of these 3 fingers. For your first time in archery, all 3 fingers should be below the arrow, not touching the arrow. That's what I'm going to recommend. I tend to shoot split finger because I've shot for a while, but if you touch the arrow, you can knock it off of the string and off the shelf. So all 3 fingers below, which I'll go ahead and do today, and then you're going to keep that arm out, and you're going to draw it back, and you're going to anchor. This process right here is called anchor. I'm going to release that slowly for a minute and talk about it. Anchoring is important because it shows you where you're aiming from. Every time you got to touch the same spot on your face. So you're going to draw it back, anchor, then you transfer. You're going to pinch your shoulders back like you're trying to pinch a volleyball between your shoulder blades. You're going to aim looking down through the sight window at the target. And when you're ready, you're going to do a very slight release. I barely move my hand there. You notice it's not this great big twinging, because if you do that, you'll throw the arrow off. You basically just let your fingers go. One of the sayings they use is paint your face. You just bring it back at the most to about there. Once you fire, and I'm going to do this one more time, and this time I'm going to shoot split finger, but I'm not going to touch the arrow. I draw back, I anchor, I transfer, aim, release, and follow through. Hold it. Hold your stance till you hear the thwack on the target. All right? Now, hopefully you've had a successful shot. If you do this consistently, you will shoot a pattern, so you can look through your sight window, see where you see the target, and make small adjustments, and that's how you zero in on your target better. So that is the shooting process. Another important do and don't, if you will. This is definitely a don't. If you go to fire and, oh, my arrow falls over the line, We do not step over the line. It stays there. You'll have the opportunity to shoot again. So for safety reasons, anything that ends up out there stays there till we're done shooting. So that's it for the 10-step process. We're going to walk up next to the target line and retrieve our arrows. We've walked now, we've shot all 5 arrows. Here they are in the target. We walked up to the target line, that rope that runs about 5 feet in front of this target. We do sometimes have 2 archers on a target, so you may walk up to that target at the same time. So you need to stop at that line and decide who's going to go first. In this case, I'm shooting by myself, so all the fletching is the same color. If I were shooting with someone else, he might have different colored arrows or fletching, so we know who's shooting what arrows. What's important here is how you remove from the target. You want to walk up to the target line and either put a hand on the target, which is good because it keeps that from falling over on you, and then always remove an arrow from close to the target. Never grab it at the end. You want to touch the fletching of an arrow as little as possible because you'll just pull them right off. So come in close, pull it out, and drop the arrow down. Next one, come in close, pull it out, drop it down. If you need 2 hands for one, continue to do it close to the target line. You'll remove all 5 targets just like this. As you're doing it, depending on how competitive you might be, you might want to be keeping score of where you hit, because different colors, depends on the target you're shooting, are going to give you a different score. Once you have your pile of arrows, you're going to come down like this and just carefully, not real hard gripping them, but you want to carry them back to the shooter's line with one hand back by the fletching and one up by the tip. And this way, should you fall, you don't hurt yourself. You don't get impaled. You've got them flat out in front of you. You get back to the shooter line, you put them in the cone, and that essentially ends that round of archery for you. The next line of archers are probably getting pretty close to coming over the waiting line and coming up to the shooting line since you've now put the arrows back. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. This is a great sport. I love archery myself. No loud noises. You can set up archery in a field. If you have enough room or backing in your yard, you can set it up. School gymnasiums do it. You just got to follow the safety commands. Please come on out and visit us. Give this a try. Bring the family. If you have any questions, let us know. Have a great day, folks. Thank you.